Hey folks, it's Tommy Z back again with another video. Today I want to get a bit philosophical, a bit poetic for you, but only in hopes that I can inspire those of you who might be getting impatient, who might be getting frustrated with your progress, who might not be seeing immediate results on your journey as a creative professional, and you're getting discouraged, doubtful, impatient. I've gone through all of these things. I still experience them, and today I want to share a metaphor with you or a tool to help you think about your career from a bigger perspective. And this is why I want to compare you and your creative career to a tree. Think about a tree. What comes to mind when you think about a tree? A big oak tree that's been around for a while. It is strong. It is stable. It is giving fruits, flowers. It's immovable, right? It's giving life-giving oxygen. Did it get there overnight? Did someone just transplant it there as it is? This huge, towering, strong, and stable tree that's giving life? No. The oak became an oak through a long process, okay? And we can compare this to our creative, to our artistic career. You cannot rush an oak tree. You cannot rush Radiohead into existence. It is all a process, folks. And this process has stages. And I love the analogy of a tree because these stages actually apply to our creative career, to our progression as a craftsperson or as an artist. So think about this. The tree doesn't get there overnight. Where does it all start? It all starts with a seed. A seed is not even a tree. It doesn't look like a tree. It's not a tree. There's no trunks, there's no branches, there's no leaves. It's just a seed. And that's where it all began for us. That's where it all began for everybody. For the Beatles, for Bach, for Beck, for Radiohead, for Picasso. It all started as a seed. And I'm sure it started as a seed for you, just as it started as a seed for me. What is the seed for us? A seed is our fascination. A seed is that first signal that we want to move towards something. A seed is the first time we heard the Beatles, or the first time we heard Radiohead, or the first time we saw a Picasso painting and decided that we want to be painters, that we want to be musicians, that we want to be craftspeople, that we want to do what this person is doing. That's the seed, okay? It's that little voice inside of us. It's that little whisper. It's that little call that is saying to us, this is what I want to do with my life. Now, sadly, some people will never, ever move from this seed stage. Their dream will always remain a dream. That little call will always just remain a nagging whisper that they never take action on. They will forever stay in the seed stage. And that's sad, okay? But I'm hoping that you who are watching this, listening to this, have moved past this stage. What is needed to get from the seed stage to the next stage? The next stage is called the seedling stage. So it kind of sounds like the seed. But in order for the seedling stage to happen, the seed must actually break apart and cease to be a seed. Okay? So how does that translate into our life and our career? Well, for me, this is the decision. The decision to go from just dreaming to actually commit and start moving toward a definite destination. For some, it might be as a painter. For another, it might be as a photographer. For another, it might be as a filmmaker. For you, it might be as a musician. But in order to move from the seed stage to the seedling stage, there has to be a definite decision, a conscious moment when you said, I am actually going to begin walking toward that destination and not just dreaming or wondering about it. What happens in the seedling stage? The seed breaks apart and we actually have a sprout shooting upward, okay? And at the same time, Downward go the roots. Very frail. Very, very frail. Both of them. Both the sprout that's shooting upward and the roots going down are very, very frail at this stage. Very vulnerable also. This stage, the seedling stage, and the next stage will be very vulnerable stages in your career. Why? Because on one hand, your ambition, your excitement, and your taste levels are very high. What does that mean? You're excited to get going, you're definitely motivated, and you are inspired by the best. So let's say that you heard Radiohead when you were younger and decided that this is magic and you want to do something like this. Well, Radiohead, I would consider a pretty remarkable band. So I'd say you have pretty great taste if you're into Radiohead. What is the problem? The problem is that your ability and your skill set and your accomplishments are low. So your excitement, your ambition, and your taste is high, and the ability to actually do what Radiohead does is really low. You have zero signs of success yet as a seedling. You're not even a tree. You don't resemble a tree whatsoever. So the big threat and the big risk here is that once you decide to actually start moving forward, you're going to go through years of doubts, of distraction, and of discouragement because reality will not be showing you signs of success. And at some point, you might even start feeling like, oh my goodness, I can never achieve the level of Radiohead. I can never paint like Picasso. I can never write poetry like whoever. I can't think of a poet right now. Milton. That is the big risk here at this seedling stage. Now, what is the antidote to it? And I'm going to speak from my own personal experience, okay? The antidote to this is to reaffirm on a daily basis your commitment to the path, your dedication to becoming an oak tree, a strong, stable, firm, life-giving oak tree. And you can only do this through daily affirmation in your journal, through conscious mental moments where you are like, I have made myself a promise to do this, and I will not go back on it because this is an important thing in my life. So set aside 5 minutes every day to do this, to reaffirm your commitment to this journey. Because I can guarantee you what's going to hurt a lot more than your doubt and discouragement right now is regret in having left the path and having broken a promise to yourself. That's going to hurt a lot more than actually continuing on the path and possibly failing. Who knows? But you will never regret the fact that you actually committed and did your best to walk this path. So that's one thing, to constantly reaffirm your dedication. And the second thing is to constantly remind yourself, and I do this in my journal, that anything, any achievement that is remarkable has to be a process. You cannot transplant a giant oak. It's a process. It has taken hundreds of years to get to where it is. Similarly, at the seedling stage, we must remind ourselves, this is a process. And what is my place in the process? Currently, I am a seedling. And notice how this gives you perspective. This gives you patience, right? This gives you a certain amount of humility where you don't expect to be like Radiohead, the Beatles right now. Of course, you want to be, that desire is there, but you realize because it is a process and because you're at a certain stage of the process, and that stage is the seedling stage, you have to accept your place and the appropriate actions that have to be taken at this stage. So what are those actions? What do you do at the seedling stage? Well, think about it. At a seedling stage, the seed breaks up, the sprout shoots upward, and the roots start forming downward. They're very weak, they're very frail, but they're actually moving. Upwards, downwards. So what does this mean for you? Upwards means that you are reaching out to the external world and you're doing learning. This is the seedling phase. Lots and lots of learning. You're a sponge. You're soaking it up. The second thing you're doing is applying the lessons that you're learning through practice, daily practice. And if you commit, for instance, 30 minutes a day to conscious practice, I can guarantee you that the sprout shooting upward is going to slowly solidify into a trunk of a tree. As long as you keep consciously practicing your craft every single day for 30 minutes, not 3 hours every 2 weeks, not 7 hours every month, 30 minutes every single day. There's a physiological reason for this, folks. Okay? There's a thing in your brain called myelin. And for somebody who wants to learn more about this, you can read, I think it's called The Talent Code. It's a book. I'll link it below. There are physical connections forming in your brain every time you consciously practice. And these connections is what allows you over time to make something that's difficult at first to be easy and automatic eventually. Just like driving a car was really awkward at first, you have to be conscious of all these things all at the same time. 5 years later, you're driving the car without thinking about it. So conscious practice at the seedling stage and reaffirmation of your dedication to the path and a reminder that this is a process and that you have a certain place in that process, and that place is right now as a seedling. That's going to help you get patience and perspective while you are strengthening yourself. So say this stage takes about year, 2 years, 3 years. What's the next stage after the seedling? The sapling. The sapling is when you finally start resembling a tree. You're still weak, you're still frail, you're thin, and you're very vulnerable. It's very easy to uproot a sapling. But at least now you resemble a tree. There's a tree trunk, there are small branches, there are roots that are going into the ground, right? So now in your career, it starts feeling like you're getting traction. It starts feeling as if you can actually call yourself a painter, a poet, a writer, or a musician. It's the first signs of traction. But you're still weak and vulnerable at this stage. In fact, when we plant trees, what do? We build a fence around it. We build a fence around it to protect it from the external environment, right? And similarly, in your career at this stage, it is still vital that you continue your daily conscious practice of your craft, 30 minutes a day, every day. You still keep reaffirming that you're dedicated to this journey, to this process of becoming an oak tree eventually. Okay? But here at this stage is when you actually start protecting yourself and forming yourself as a real tree. So the fence that we put around the tree, for me, symbolically, that means that you surround yourself with a good environment, with good people, and with mentors who can actually nourish you, who can water you, and who can protect you from danger. Not only protect you from danger, but they can actually nurture and nourish you and shape you into eventually what's going to be an oak tree or a professional craftsperson. So it's very, very important at this stage, at the sapling stage, for you to remain humble. Because another risk, another threat that you have is because you start looking like a tree, because you start getting traction, you're already feeling like, give me the sexy projects, put me in the spotlight, I'm ready for the stage. I think I'm ready to be Radiohead. I think I'm ready to be Bach. Because you still have that youthful, it's almost like a teenage cockiness. And maybe you don't see the whole playing field yet. Maybe you don't see the whole battlefield like a seasoned general does, because they've already won some battles and they've lost some battles. So they've seen the ups and downs, and you haven't. You're still riding the emotion of that early stage in your career where there's enthusiasm. You haven't suffered any big losses yet. And so sometimes that turns into a cockiness that can really sabotage your career. And it's very important at this stage to protect yourself from yourself by being humble, by continue to practice consciously every day, by reminding yourself of your place in the process, which is I'm a sapling. I am not Radiohead. I am not an oak tree. I am a sapling. I am still a sponge ready to learn, but now I am able to actually shoot out my branches into the external world and start connecting with people. I am ready to start getting my roots deep into the ground and strengthening myself and building relationships and surrounding myself with mentors who can teach me the ways of the business. But it's very important when you find these mentors that you do not exhibit this cockiness or this demand, this entitlement as like, give me opportunities, give me Radiohead opportunities, give me the Beatles opportunities. No. That is not the right attitude, the right mindset for the sapling stage. The right attitude, mindset for the sapling stage is put yourself in a good environment, find yourself great mentors, continue to practice and make yourself useful, and approach with the mindset of being useful, taking initiative, and solving whatever problems they throw at you. If they ask you to hang sound panels in the studio, that's what you're going to do, despite the fact that you think you're a brilliant composer. If they ask you to bring coffee to a meeting, that's what you're going to do, with a smile on your face. And you know why? Because you're a sapling. And because it's all a process. And you're not going to be a sapling forever. If you bring the coffee with a smile to the meeting, if you hang sound panels properly, if you clean up cables in the studio, if you do more than what is asked for you, your growth into a tree, into a mature tree, into a strong and stable tree is going to be more likely. So when people ask you, for instance, to do something that you think might be below you, it's not about the coffee. It's not about the task. It's not about cleaning up the studio. What they're doing is watching your growth and your progress and your attitude and how you conduct yourself under situations like this. And you might think it would be better for you to actually start tackling the high-profile projects, to actually start doing really ambitious things right now because you're ready. But this is almost like being in the military. Why do they make you do push-ups every day? Why do they make you jog every day? Why do they make you put your bed together, your bed sheets, to get them all sorted out, to make up your bed every time you wake up? Like, why do they make you do that? What does that have to do with being an effective soldier? Well, it's got everything to do with being an effective soldier because they're teaching you discipline. They're teaching you habits. They're teaching you how to be orderly in your everyday so that you can be effective in combat. Well, this is the same in the sapling stage, okay? This is where you need to have humility, surround yourself with great mentors and leaders, learn from them, and show them that you have initiative, that you have humility, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes, whatever they ask you. And hopefully, your mentors are good enough to recognize the potential in you, and they already see a giant oak tree in you. And they will continue to evolve you and keep giving you more and more ambitious tasks, but never too soon. Because they need to make sure you have that foundation, you have that stability, you have that strength, you have that humility, which will come in handy, coincidentally, later on, when you do have the experience and when the problems you're tackling, when the successes you're experiencing are much bigger. I've seen a lot of people get carried away by success, just as they have by failure. And it's because they didn't have that humility and that grounding and understanding that this is a process. It's got peaks and valleys, and you're going to have to keep a stable head through it all. So this is the all-important stage of the sapling. Now, what happens in this stage for creatives? You spend 3 to 5 years under the tutelage of a mentor that you hopefully found, or being in an environment where you can learn. And after that, you start becoming a tree, a real tree, where we remove the fence. Now you're standing on your own. Now you are creating your own strength by placing your roots deeper in the ground. Some trees, I don't know if you know this, but they will actually intertwine their roots with trees of their own kind. For me, that is a symbol of creating a community, creating collaboration, nourishing each other. Something that is very, very, very important. I cannot overstate this enough. Very important in your career. Starting at the seedling stage, you should already be expanding your branches into the world, establishing relationships, drawing energy, establishing your roots. And this should continue as a habit through the sapling stage. And as you become a young tree, continue to extend your branches toward the sun. And continue to get your roots deeper into the ground and connect with other trees in your area so you can become a collaborative community. The reason why you're likely to fail, the reason why you're likely to get discouraged, the reason why you're likely to get uprooted is because you're not anchored. If you continue to extend your roots into the ground and intertwine them with other trees, it's not going to be that easy to uproot you, to upset you. And this is why it's so key for you not to do this alone, but to become a part of a community. Hopefully, an environment where you have mentors who can actually elevate you and evolve you while you build your strength. So you can see, folks, this is a process, okay? Some trees, like I've been reading about an oak tree, they take 40 years to actually start being productive. And they reach their peak from 80 to 120 years. There are trees that live for thousands of years, okay? And this is my metaphor for you to help you to gain perspective, to help you to gain a bigger picture, to help you to be more patient, and to help you to identify your place in the process, and more importantly, understand that it is a process. So folks, that's the thought I want to leave you with today. Your creative career is like a tree. You can't rush an oak tree. You can't rush your evolution in your creative career. Realize it is a process. Realize that anything remarkable takes time. But if you go through this process and you understand your place at each part of this process, and you serve with humility, and you practice consciously every day, and you commit to this path of becoming a professional artist or a professional craftsperson, then someday you just might be like an oak tree that nobody can move even if they try, that is stable, solid, strong, and that is giving life, is giving fruit, it's giving flowers, it's giving oxygen, and even after it decays, it is still providing nutrients into the ground so that other trees can start growing. And that would be your legacy. That would mean that you lived a life of significance. That even after you were done making music, putting out products, putting out services, putting out albums, painting pictures, getting awards, doing all that stuff, even after you were long gone, because of you, there were other trees sprouting because of the things you left behind. And to me, that would be a legacy worth striving for. I hope that this has been helpful, folks. I hope that it inspired you in some way. Have patience. Your career is a process. Let each stage have its necessary time. And I promise you, as long as you stick on this path and you stay committed to this journey, good things are going to flower and you're going to bear some good fruit. All right, folks, I'm Tommy Z, and I'll see you in the next video.